Sandy Says Read. Welcome to the channel. This evening we are going to do a story time. This is part one of two in a story time about unfortunate book events. All right, I know it's kind of a trend out there in the social media platforms for authors to talk about or mention their recent unfortunate or disappointing book signings or author readings or just unfortunate events that they've scheduled that haven't turned out as awesome as we'd hoped they'd turn out. Okay? We've all had one of these events that's just not lived up to what we'd hoped it would be, right? And if you haven't had one that's disappointed you yet, just wait. It's coming one of these days. I know that sounds pretty negative, right? That sounds very pessimistic, but things are the way they are, right? Once in a while, something's going to happen out there in the universe and things aren't going to line up right and you're going to have a disappointing event. It happens to everyone. It happens to the big fancy authors, right? It happens to little indie authors like me. And you roll with it, you learn from it, you plan for the next one, right? And on we go. So let's talk about it. This is part one. And in part one, we're going to talk about my very first book signing. Yeah, my very first one. But I didn't give up, okay? So let's dive in. You guys know that if you've been following the channel at all, you know I have always wanted to be a writer. Since I was a little girl, I've always written little stories. My great-grandmother used to share my little stories when I was a little kid. She would share them with the people in her apartment building. And that was just an awesome encouragement for me, right? So when I became an adult and I was writing books and manuscripts, I wanted to find a literary agent. That wasn't going well, and I thought, that is the kind of disappointment I don't need in my life. So I decided to pitch directly to a publisher. I pitched to Bob Jelinas of Archibooks Publishing. He said, yeah, and gave me a contract. And the very first novel, Choices Meant for Gods, hit the marketplace. So June 9th of 2007, I was signed up to have my very first book signing at the Barnes & Noble in the Waterside Shops in Naples, Florida. I got that book signing by calling Barnes & Noble, talking to their customer service rep and saying, hey, may I have a book signing? May I come to your store as a new author with Archibooks Publishing with a brand new book? May I have a spot in your store to do a book signing? And they said yes. So it came to be. So to prepare for the book signing, to prepare for my first book signing, here's what I did. And your results may vary. You may get some good tips out of this. You may not. I mean, take this for what it's worth, okay? So for my first book signing, what I did is I had some flyers printed. This was back in 2007. I did not have huge access to lots of printing matter the way I do today. So I had a vendor who had worked with me at the university that shall not be named. I had moved on to a different job with a magazine publisher at this point. So, but I still had connections in the community because not everyone in that community was crazy, but I still had connections who had worked with me when I was at the university. So I contacted one of the people who was a vendor who did like marketing stuff, right? Talked with her and she helped me get some flyers made. We made up some flyers about the upcoming book signing for Choices Meant for Gods with new author Sandy Linder. So we had these things made and I got permission from some grocery stores to have them at the end of the grocery store line, right? When you're checking out, there they are where you bag your groceries. Some grocery stores would allow it, some would not. All you can do is ask, right? I had them pinned up at laundromats, had them pinned up at just different places, right? Where there were bulletin boards, okay? I put these flyers out anywhere that I was allowed to put them out. And anywhere that someone said no, I said, okay, well, thank you anyway. All right. I tried, okay? So I got the word out any way I could. I also individually invited people to come to my book signing. There were friends of mine who worked at the university that shall not be named that I contacted and said, hey, my book signing is coming up. If you're available, come to the Waterside Shops from this time to this time on June 9th. I contacted people, I emailed people. Okay, So these are the ways that I got the word out about this. I sent a notice to the different newspapers, in the areas, but be aware that newspapers don't care about your book signing. They don't care about your book release, and they don't care about your book signing. These are not events that newspapers care about, and they still don't to this day. If you're sending a press release to a newspaper about your new book, what they want to know is what's different. They want a news item about it, not the fact that your book is being released is not the news item. Something else needs to be the news item. Anyway, that's another topic for another day. Okay, so let's see. I got the word out about the book signing that was coming up. Let's talk about preparation. So preparing for the book signing, I took to the book signing for that day and got there early. I took to the book signing some extra copies of the book. I have a copy of the book here. This is not the original cover. As you all know, the original publisher did have to close their doors. So this is the new, revised, recovered, and re-released Choices Meant for Gods. Seventh Star Press re-released this in June of 2023. So this is the new cover. But I took extra copies of the book just in case we sold out, right? I took extra copies of the book. I took a fold-up table with me just in case they didn't have a table for me. I took an extra chair just in case they didn't have a chair for me. I took a tablecloth to put across the table just in case they didn't have a covering for my table. I took things with me to make a nice display and a nice presentation on the table just in case they didn't have the extra things. I took a sign with me. Archibooks Publishing provided me with a large foam board sign with the original cover on it. So I had some display materials. So I took those things with me just in case they didn't have a sign there at Barnes & Noble. They did, yay, so I didn't have to worry about that. But I also took with me, you ready for this? A sword. Yeah, I took a sword into the bookstore. Well, I took a sword because at my early book signings, I used to give away a sword. If you signed up for Sandy's newsletter list or email list, you put your name on in a drawing to win a sword. Yeah, so I used to give away swords at my early book signings. Yeah, I don't think I could get away with that now. I don't think weaponry is something you can just give away anymore. Yeah, but back then I did, and it was awesome and fun. So yeah, I took a sword with me. The other thing I took with me to my first book signing was pizza. Yep, I stopped by the local pizza shop there in the Waterside Shops and bought a couple of pizzas for the Barnes & Noble staff. Because you guys, they didn't have to give me a spot to have a book signing that day. And I was thankful. And I wanted them to know I was thankful. And I took them pizza. And I'm like, here, this is for you. Put this in your break room. Everyone who's working today, have some pizza on me because thank you. And thank you. And that serves two purposes in the end. It says thank you to these folks. It lets them know I'm grateful. And I want to express that. But it also says, hey, Sandy Lender doesn't suck. She's an okay gal. We should probably help promote her book, right? So it kind of serves two purposes, but it also lets them know that I'm thankful that they let me have space. I'm thankful they let me have time. I'm thankful that they gave me a chance to stand in their store and promote my book to the people walking in. I mean, it mattered to me. It was part of the dream, right? So it mattered to me. So anyway, pizza was the least I could do. All right, so let's see what else is on the list here, you guys, after preparation. Okay, so what if no one shows up? Okay, so what if it's that unfortunate book event, right? We got to steel ourselves for the disappointment, right? So it did start out pretty rocky for me. The first 15, 20 minutes, no one was walking up and saying, hey, Sandy, it's so great to see that you're here. It's congratulations on your new book. That wasn't happening for the first 15 or 20 minutes. And I was standing there thinking, oh, crap. What if no one comes in? What if no one buys my book? What if this is a dismal failure, right? I mean, those thoughts are going through my mind. I'm thinking it. It was a little unnerving, right? I mean, I had all the weird excuses given to me before the event. I mean, I was inviting people face to face. I would, I spoke to coworkers and said, hey, I have this book signing Saturday. I hope you can make it. And one of my coworkers looked me dead in the eye and said, I can't because I'm babysitting my grandson. And I said, well, you can bring him. It's a bookstore. And her reply was, I couldn't possibly take my grandson into a bookstore. And I thought, well, children should be taught to read. But I didn't say that to her. But it was odd to me. And I realized, okay, I'm going to hear all the excuses. And to this day, I still get excuses from people that just, they're not, some folks are just not going to show up to these things. Okay. And as authors, we need to understand not everyone who is in our lives is going to participate in the dream. Not everyone is going to support that aspect. Not everyone is going to do that. So we got to learn to roll with it. And so I learned that day to roll with it. Now, after I had been there for a little while, my publisher did come because they were located just up in Cape Coral, which is like an hour with traffic, about an hour from Naples. So he came down and he was there for most of the book signing. One of my author friends from Archibooks, from the same publishing family, she came in. And that was amazing and wonderful that she was there to be supportive. And she's actually she took my picture with my book there at the tables. And I used that picture for marketing for like years, right? So there were a couple of folks there to be supportive and, make sure I didn't jump off a cliff, right? So there were some supportive people there. And folks did walk in and stop by the table. Folks did walk in, and when I would say, hello, good morning, they didn't just, skitter away. Some folks did say, oh, hi, and walk over and pick up the book and talk to me about it. So there was interaction. There were some folks who got interested, and I did sell some books that day. Score. Now, there were a couple of really weird experiences, though, that happened that day, and I'm going to share those with you now. One of them is funky. Okay, prepare yourself for the funkiness. I had worked at a university. I was married to an idiot. And that idiot had left the state. He was going to apply to attend a university somewhere else. Surprise. He went off to do that. And apparently lots of folks in the university knew what he was doing. And I did learn what he was doing and filed for divorce. Anyway, one of those professors walked in and saw me standing there. And he's like, Sandy, are you working here now? And I said, well, no, I'm promoting my new book. And he looked down at the book and he looked at me and was thoroughly confused, totally flustered. He did not know how to respond at that point. And so we kind of made some conversation, and he did ask about whether I had the house sold yet, if I was ready to move and go join Idiot Stick up north yet. And I'm like, well, no. And then, I was starting to realize, this poor gentleman thinks I'm doing this until I move on to rejoin the dude I'm divorcing. He doesn't know the divorce is happening. It's all fine. Okay. So I just kind of brushed off some of his weird questions, and he looked really uncomfortable. I remember he just looked really uncomfortable and perplexed. Very perplexed. He did not buy the book. He set it down and he wandered off into the store, and I didn't see him leave. I don't remember him leaving. He could still be in that store now today. Poor guy. Okay, so that was one weird, funky experience. The other weird thing that happened, and this one, that experience with the professor probably won't happen to you. This other one could happen to you. It's a weird one. This older couple, very elderly man and woman, walked in, and as they're walking in, I'm greeting people who walk into the store, and good morning. And this gentleman, bless his heart, he looks at me, and he looked very pleasant, very, happy to be out at the store today. And he began to walk toward me. And I thought, great, we'll talk. But as he began to walk toward me, as he veered toward my table, the shrew of a woman who was with him grabbed his arm and like hissed at him, and this like voice, this demonic voice out of the depths of hell issued forth from her, and she said, "That's not Harry Potter," and began dragging him away. And this poor man, his face just fell. I mean, what had just been a joyous look of welcome and greeting changed. I mean, his face just fell. And I thought, you poor, poor soul. You have to live with that woman, don't you? And, I just smiled like, okay, bye. Good luck. And off they went into the store. That was disheartening. That was a shame. I mean, I didn't feel so much sorry for myself in that instance. I felt sorry for him because he just wanted to say, hey, and it looked like he just wanted to say hello. He wanted to see what I had at the table. And that woman was like, no, we're here for Harry Potter and nothing else. I wonder if he was allowed to look at any books in the store other than Harry Potter. Poor guy. Oh, anyway, so those were the weird things that happened that day. What else? Okay, so when you're done with your book signing at the end, if you have books left there at the store, which I did, there were a couple books left there at the store, encourage people to go to the store after your book signing. And part 2 is going to discuss the importance of this, why it's important to go get those books moved off the shelf, because it's pretty important. But afterward, it's important to, for folks who weren't able to make it during your signing, have them go afterward. There were plenty of people that I had invited during that 2-hour window who couldn't make it during that 2-hour window. So my follow-up with them was, hey, I'm so sorry you couldn't make it to my signing. My book is still at the store. Just letting you know. The book is there. So if you wanted to go get it, you don't have to order it online. You can go get it from the store. You can go get it from Barnes & Noble. There's a couple of them on the shelf. Because it's important to move that thing off the shelf. Some of those stores, they've got I've got a bird that wants me to stop this. Some of those bookstores have a window during which you need to sell those books where they've got to get them off the shelf. Some of them, that's 30 days. Some of them, it's 60 days. Yeah, we'll talk about that in part 2. But encourage those folks to go pick up the book after the signing if you've got some left there at the store. That's it. I think that's it. So my book signing, I don't want to say it was unfortunate. I don't want to say it was disappointing. I did get some books moved. It was my first one. It was part of the dream. It was part of the experience. It was what it was. And I learned some things from it, and it was a good experience to have under my belt. Subsequent book signings went more smoothly. Yeah. I mean, I've had a lot of book signings since then. That was 2007, right? I've had a lot since then. And they all have their ups and their downs and their quirks and whatever. We're going to talk about one of those weird quirks in part 2. So I encourage you to watch for that. Maybe I'll film this so that I can upload that on like the next day after this one. Okay? So thumbs up for just part of the dream, right, guys? Share with me some of your first book signing or first book event snafus or strange things in the comments below. Let's share, let's discuss it, let's talk about some tips and ideas to share with each other. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to the channel so that you're notified each time I do the crazy things here.